Free speech should be upheld on college campuses. It is democracy's lifeblood. Government censorship deprives the students of their right to invite speech they wish to hear, debate speech in which they disagree, and protest speech they find bigoted or offensive. And an open society depends on liberal education and is founded on the principle of free speech. Speech that offends morality or is hostile to our way of life deserve the same constitutional protection as other speech, because the right to free speech can't be separated, because when we grant the government the power to suppress controversial ideas, we are all subject to censorship by the state or federal government. Bigoted or racist speech that does not rise to the level of threats or harassment or hostile environment should be promoted to encourage the exchange of ideas in order to improve knowledge and understanding on college campuses.
Most institutions have limitations on free speech in some way or another. For example, posting discriminatory content or slurs on social media can get you fired from your job, cause you to lose a scholarship, and even your acceptance at a college or university to be revoked. Limitations on freedom of speech on college campuses are important to protect students, create more inclusive and respectful environments, and to set students up for the real world. The First Amendment applies only to government entities, which includes public college and universities, according to the freedomforum.org. And if a private institution voluntarily declares free speech protection, it is bound by that promise. The problem lies in the fact that regulations differ by state and definitions for many terms often referenced in conversations about free speech can be interpreted in many different ways. It is also important to note that the First Amendment does not protect behavior on campus that crosses the line into targeted harassment or threats, or creates a perversely hostile environment for vulnerable students. But merely offensive or bigoted speech does not rise to that level, according to aclu.org. Limitations of free speech keep people safe at institutions like colleges because they would ensure that people who break these regulations are punished.
The Supreme Court has held that the government cannot punish inflammatory speech unless it is intentionally and effectively provokes a crowd to carry out violent and unlawful action. For example, in Brandenburg versus Ohio back in 1969, it involved a member of the KKK who at a rally said bad things about Black and Jewish people, and it promoted white nationalism. Colleges should also uphold free speech because free speech on college campuses has been essential to the advancement of rights and equality. There would be no civil rights protests of the 1960s, such as the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which started on college campuses. There would be no lunch counter sit-ins, March on Selma, which led to the end of segregation. Free speech also led to the women's suffrage movement.
Without limitations on free speech on college campuses, it becomes much harder to keep students safe in cases of harassment. Even with current limitations on some campuses, it is difficult to regulate what students do and do not say to each other. In sexual harassment cases, in particular, courts are split on how they apply the different definitions of free speech and sexual harassment, thus resulting in cases having no real regulations to follow and a wide variation of punishments. Cases with non-targeted homophobia and racial discrimination would be almost impossible to act on at every institution in the same way. As a result, students in the LGBTQ+ community and students who are part of racial minorities will be unable to go to school safely. And this is why we have lists like top 10 safest LGBTQ-friendly schools and colleges and universities in the country, and the same for racial minorities as well.
Freedom of expression on college campuses that is absolute is a vital for constructive learning for students and academic freedom for college professors.
Terms like free speech, harassment, and discriminatory language need to have more generalized definitions, and we need to continue to have limitations on what students can and cannot say on college campuses. Just like in real life, there are consequences for what you choose to say, so it wouldn't make sense to take these away while on college campuses. Limitations on freedom of speech are imperative in order to keep all students safe.